Hi guys, I'm Van Plating. I'm sitting here in East Texas with my new friend Boston Chris, and I cannot wait to dive into the meaty stuff around creation, around music, around life. It's such a privilege to get to make new friends all around the country, and I hope you enjoy watching.
It's time to jam. It's time to mingle. It's time to see what everyone's drinking. It's time to jam. It's time to mingle. It's time to see what everyone's drinking. Until we all lose connection.
All right. Hey, this is Jerry Phillips, and thank you for tuning into the Boston Chris Show.
Hey guys, Boston Chris here with another fabulous episode of the Boston Chris podcast, and this is episode number 57
Wow.
already. Yes, so we started in May. I've done a lot more than that. We're like 440 something now overall,
Wow.
but 57 on this show when we came back.
Cool.
Much like you, I took a long hiatus. So we're going to talk about your hiatus in a little while.
Okay.
I'm excited about that because there's no info on that, so we're going to drag that out of you.
Okay.
This is starting swimmingly. But anyway, I have Van Plating with me today here on the show. And she's all the way from north of Orlando, Florida, and we're in East Texas. Enjoying your time in Texas so far?
I have had, I thought I was going to die the other night during a hailstorm in Glen Rose, but here I
In
am
March,
today
by the way,
in March
just so we're clear.
in a severe hailstorm the size of quarters.
Yes.
But here we are. We
She
we
made
live
it.
to die another day.
Yeah. So in your week in Texas, have you been frozen and sweating?
Yes, within 24 hours of each
Yes.
other. Yes. I also discovered that at Dino State Valley Park, they don't mark the trail closings until you get to the connecting
When you're
trail.
inside.
So once you're 4 miles down the trail, that's when you find out that your connector
they're
is
closing the
closed.
gates and you need to move
And
your
that's
bacon.
when your 4 mile hike turns into a 7 mile hike
And you wish you brought your
on the
inhaler.
hot day.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's great stuff.
beautiful,
That's
though.
Texas in a nutshell. Is this your first time here?
Not my first time here, but it is my first time spending more time in Central and East Texas.
Okay.
So
So I know you played what, DFW last night,
I
right?
did.
Dallas.
I did.
Yeah.
We played at the Sons of Herman Hall in Deep Ellum, which is
Yeah.
it's the longest running bar in Dallas.
Yep.
I'm impressed with myself that I remembered that bit of trivia.
There you go.
But I knew it was an iconic room, and you can
And after
definitely
you
feel
slept
it
too. That's impressive.
a little bit,
Yeah.
not nearly
She
enough.
hasn't slept much.
Not
She'll
nearly
do
enough.
that when she gets home.
Yeah.
Guys, you probably recognize where we are. We're at the Speakeasy Coffee House here in downtown Quitman, one of our fabulous partners and sponsors of the show. You guys make sure you're checking the place out if you happen to be in downtown Quitman. It's beautiful out here, and they have amazing stuff here, drinks and food and live music. And Van will be playing here tonight for the first time, which we're excited about. And we'll make sure we bring some of that show to the channel as well. So you guys tune in for that. Actually, that might be out before this episode. I'm not sure. But she did play a couple of songs for the show too. And the first one's really exciting because this is a brand new single that's going to be coming. By the time this comes out, this will be a couple of weeks
Right.
old. So it's out there for you guys to purchase and stream and all that stuff. But this is called Yesterday Got in the Way. Tell us about the song.
So this is a reimagining of an original by Doug Somm,
Okay.
the Tejano pioneer songwriter. And I decided in my in between full length albums, and this ended up being a full length album. It was supposed to be a short one,
Yeah.
but I got carried away. I wanted to do something for my Texas music community because it's just for the last 5 or 6 years, Texas has just really been a warm place for my art.
Literally and figuratively.
Literally and figuratively, except for during the hailstorms. And so one song led to another, and I ended up doing an entire record of sort of reimagined Doug Somm songs. So I took the songs, sort of reinterpreted them my way, put my stamp on them, but kept that spirit of his, which is just very freewheeling, very creative, unconventional. And then I used besides myself, I play a lot of instruments, and I produced it. I used all Texas musicians for my session band. So most of them are from Austin.
So was it produced here as well?
It's produced in my studio. Okay. Some of it was tracked at the Zone out in the Hill Country by Pat Mansky. He did several different musicians for me. Bucka Allen was one of them. And then let's see, Rich Brotherton in Austin, Texas, tracked bass and drums in his room. And I actually got to meet with him, and we live tracked a couple of the guests on the record together at his home studio.
It's an all-star team.
Oh my gosh. It's just like once you get the little liner notes and you see who all played on this, I have had a lot of fan freak out moments making this particular little album.
Yeah.
Lloyd Maines played steel on 2 songs.
Yeah.
And I thought he wasn't even going to respond to my email.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he emailed me back, said he would do it, said he liked the songs. And then he emailed me back with his parts, which are totally bananas. So good. Of course they are.
Yeah.
And he was like, who produced this and who's playing the fiddle? And I got to say, it's me. And he was like, sounds real good. So that was a great feeling.
Watershed moment.
Yeah. So it's been just building community too during the process of crafting the art.
That's
so the
amazing.
first one comes out March 18th, which it'll be 2 weeks old, I think.
So you guys make sure you're checking out the song. This is a live acoustic right here at the Speakeasy. It's called Yesterday Got in the Way. Y'all check it out.
Gotta keep moving, sure got a long way to go. Hey, got to keep moving, about to try and steal the show. Just like all the rest, I've been asleep. But yesterday got in the way. But yesterday got in the way and slowed me down. Yesterday got in the way. If you didn't tell me the last thing that was on your mind, hey, go ahead and ask, baby. I wish you wouldn't waste my time. I've been from world to world and back today. But yesterday got in the way. But yesterday got in the way and slowed me down. Yesterday got in the way. Sometimes I wonder which way they're gonna fall. If you didn't know me, you wouldn't have to ask it all. Seem the stars is out of my control. 'Cause yesterday got in the way. But yesterday got in the way and slowed me down. Yesterday got in the way. Yesterday got in the way. Yesterday.
All right, so we're back with Van Plating. That was Yesterday Got in the Way. You guys make sure you're spinning the song, loop that sumbitch over and over and over and
Please
over
do.
again. Yeah, do it. And buy the record. It's called Orange Blossom Child. And we're going to get into the record a little bit later. But I got
Okay.
to tell you how I found out about you.
Please do, because I'm curious.
Because music is kind of that, right? You find people through other people.
Yes.
It's that networking kind of
Yes.
thing. So the first time I ever saw your name was from Jack Barksdale.
Oh my gosh, I love the Barksdales.
Yes, me too.
They're
So
great.
we interviewed Jack when he was 10.
Oh,
So
my
it was
goodness.
that long ago,
Yeah.
right, that we've known Jack and Clara and Brent.
Yeah.
Right? So when I see people on his songs,
Mm-hmm.
this is Jack. Like he's like the wonderkind, right?
Yes,
Like,
he is. Absolutely,
and
he is.
I just fell in love with your sound.
Oh, thank
And then
you.
fast forward, you got a guest spot on Heather's record.
A
by
couple
now.
of them, yeah.
And it was Gunpowder and Lead.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, wow.
Yeah, that blew my mind.
Speaking of
too.
all-star teams, that record as well. Oh my gosh. So that's how I know who you are.
Oh,
And so because of those two songs, I started really
Mm-hmm.
going down your rabbit hole and checking out your content. And it's just fabulous stuff. And
thank
I
you.
couldn't believe you were from Florida.
Well, a lot of people are surprised by that.
There's just a
It's
lot
really
of Texas
funny.
vibes in
That's
your
what
music.
everybody has always said. In fact, that's one of the reasons I even created Orange Blossom Child.
Yeah,
Was sort of to like lay the groundwork of here's why I sound the way I do.
right.
And here's where these colors come from. And they are there's a lot of cross pollination
hmm
for sure between Texas and Florida. We're both kind of the wild states,
Yeah,
honestly.
for sure. Yeah.
You know,
Just kind of out there.
definitely out there. And I think that that's why so often, I mean, people really will think that I'm from here
Yeah.
all the
I
time.
didn't know.
Even with my recent record out, they'll still be like,
Yeah.
oh, that's cool. What part of Texas are you from? I'm like, I'm not. I love it though.
Right. When you're into music, you don't even realize that people aren't from Texas until you
Right.
find out they're not
Well,
from
it's
Texas.
a beautiful assumption for someone to make.
Yeah,
Because
it can be, for
you
sure,
know,
yeah.
people here love Texas music. So it's a
course.
compliment for sure.
Yeah, and you fit here,
Thank you.
which is great because and there's a line on your website I want to talk about here in a minute. But
Okay.
I'm supposed to ask an icebreaker question, but we're getting off track already. The icebreaker question is, what are your favorite drinks right now?
Alcohol drinks?
It could be either.
I mean, well, my all day drink is water. Boring. Hydrating.
That's
though.
your
Very
adult
good for you.
drink.
That's my grown up drink.
You have to be a
I
grown
have
up.
to be
and
half your body weight in ounces every day.
we don't follow.
Guys.
No, none of us follow that.
But my drink, I love a nice sipping whiskey.
hmm
I like it neat. I like it on the rocks. I like an old fashioned that's mostly just the bitters and the orange peel and no.
Nice.
I don't like sugary things
Yeah,
at all.
I got you.
But that's kind of my go-to.
Nice. So we got that out of the way. Now we can talk about cool stuff.
Okay.
We talked about north of Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
So off camera, I do have some family from that area of the world. Is that where you grew up as well?
That's where I grew up, and now we live sort of southwest of Orlando, closer to Tampa Bay.
Okay.
In a city called Lakeland.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Tigers.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. See, I know my stuff. Yeah, I have some memories in Tampa. Some funny ones. Actually, I'll share one with you. The first time I ever ate at a Wendy's was at Tampa.
Really?
hmm
Interesting.
And so I love Wendy's now. But the story is, and my folks will always give me shit about this until the day I die. The story is I didn't know they had salt and pepper shakers. Because every fast food restaurant I've ever eaten at up till that point just had them in the little packets.
Little packets, yeah.
Right? So I didn't know there was a salt and pepper shaker on the table. So I'm just, putting salt on my fries from the packet.
Yeah.
It wasn't salt. It was sugar. So I had the most sweetest French
Delicious.
fries I've ever had. And I'm just like, wow, these French fries taste like donuts. I don't understand. And so halfway through, my mom figured out that the packet was sugar and not salt. Have not lived that down, and it's 40 years later, sadly. Yeah, that's a Tampa memory. So, musical memories. What's the first thing you can remember musically?
The very first earliest thing I can remember is singing on the carpet when my dad was playing guitar. I also remember about the same. I must have been really, really, really small. Music was always present my dad and my mom both play completely different. And then my granddad on my mother's side, that's the bluegrass family. And so I literally grew up crawling around in a pickin' circle, and those are my earliest memories, are holding my tiny violin. I started playing violin at 3.
Wow.
And so it's like, this big.
Wow.
And they were a bunch of old, Florida by way of Southern Alabama fruit pickers. And they just would let me sit in and make noise with them. And then my dad was always, every night after work, he had his guitar and he was singing. And so those are like my earliest memories, were singing most of all. My mom says I sang before I really talked. So it's been...
Was the violin your
life.
first love as far as
No,
instrumentation?
that was my first thing my parents signed me up for.
Okay.
I mean, I love it. I love it now, but they put me in lessons because my mom wanted me, she said she wanted me to have something to fall back on when I was old. Starting at 3 was important, I guess. And then...
that seems backwards to me.
I don't know. My family is very eccentric. They said... I started lessons at 3, and they said I could quit when I graduated high school. And my first teacher at 3 years old told me that I only had to practice on the days that I ate food. So it's very...
days that end in wine, essentially.
Yeah. So
every single day.
Yeah, every single day. And I mean, the violin ended up paying for my college, so
the violin was the first instrument?
Yeah, but I mean, I sang the whole time, but the violin's the one that I was in like a rigorous academic program. And then, but music was everywhere, I was always playing something. At my granddad's house, him and his brothers, he had 9 brothers.
Wow.
I can't remember how many of them were still alive by the time there were at least 7 of them who were still sitting in the circle by the time I was old enough to remember playing songs with them. And then I had just always sang. I had always done it. So,
what are some things from that period in your life you've learned that you still kind of apply to today?
Just that practice is actually even more essential than a lot of musicians seem to think it is.
I agree. Muscle memory, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
because if you practice enough, your muscle memory can take over enough for you to actually be in the moment when you're singing.
Absolutely.
And not be thinking about whether your hands are in the right place.
Especially that pinky when you're a fiddle player, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
That's what stopped my
exactly.
father-in-law from being a fiddle player. He used to complain about it all the time. He's not with us anymore, but this is my wife's dad. He was a pedal steel player, played with Bob Wills.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But I actually got to interview him, which was amazing. He had 72 years in the music business.
Wow.
When I interviewed him. And he said, man, all I wanted to do was be a fiddle player. He said, but my pinky had other ideas.
4th finger.
Yeah. He said, my pinky had other ideas.
They make you do pinky push-ups.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking. That's a real thing. Pinky push-ups.
Yeah.
Your bow hand. Anyway, I digress.
It aggravated him, and he was very like the kind of guy that never gets aggravated.
That's
right?
it.
But even at 88 some odd years old, he was still mad at his pinkies.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, they make you do all these like muscle separation techniques, like that kind of creepy stuff. Why am I doing? I've never done this in an interview before. They probably can't even see what I'm doing. But separating the signals in your brain to your hand.
It's smart.
Yeah.
Because then you can just do it without thinking about it.
Yeah, and if you're forced to practice every day that you eat food, eventually you're going to get decent.
You just go a day without food sometimes, just so you can take a break.
I like eating, so sadly.
You know what, Dad? I'm not eating today. My hands are killing me.
My fingers are bleeding.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you talked about bluegrass on one side of your family.
Yeah.
You obviously have that vibe in your music.
Yeah.
You hear it there, but there's so much more.
Yeah.
And the line on your webpage says genre-defying.
Yes.
And so what does that mean to you?
It means that I refuse to play by the rules of a framework.
Love it.
I'm not going to do it. So I'm going to pull from everything I've ever heard in my life and put it all together instead of trying to be there's nothing wrong with being a neo-traditionalist. I actually think those people serve a really important role.
I agree.
But it's just not me.
And I would say that the new record is a direct response from that
Mhm.
freedom, right?
Mhm.
Because who's going to put out a record that's devoted to one artist or one songwriter,
Right.
essentially?
Right.
So if you don't have that freedom, that's not going to exist. That
Right.
record would not exist
Right.
without that. you know?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, because a record label's not going to let you do that.
Mm-mm.
No way. No
No.
way. So education, you went to Florida Southern College.
I did.
What did you go to school for?
Violin and vocal performance.
Okay. The two things that
Very
I feel,
marketable.
two of the things that I think make you really unique.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That means a lot.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about your vocals big time. I did not know that's what you went to school for.
Mhm.
That's why it's on my outline. I wanted to know. But if you look,
Mhm.
violin and vocals are two of my notes.
Oh, wow.
Mhm. So vocals, I feel, get lost a lot
Mhm.
when it comes to instrumentation, just the delivery of a song, a message,
Absolutely.
a
I agree with
story,
you.
right?
Mhm.
And like Billie Eilish is a good example of
Mhm.
somebody I feel uses her vocals to tell a story
100%.
so well.
Yeah.
You are that way.
Thank you very
So
much.
I want to know I know there has to be a strategy there for you, right?
Yes, 100%. The first thing that I did, so you said you want to talk about my hiatus, and we'll get to that when you're ready to.
Yeah.
But when I began to write music again, the first thing I went for was focusing in on my voice
hmm
and developing and leaning into all the things that people had hated about it growing up
I like
and in school.
Mhm.
I wanted to take all of the things that I had ever been told not to do
and
and
make
get
them
really
better.
awesome at it.
Yeah, make them better.
And
Yeah.
make those things part
God,
of
that's
my
great.
sound.
Rebelliousness.
Yes.
Yes.
Because I had spent my entire life vocally and somewhat on the violin, sort of being placed inside a framework that I didn't choose.
hmm
And while maybe that can work for some people, I think at a certain point in a person's development, and this goes for just being a human, not
Mhm.
being an artist, but also being a human, you have to be able to take all the information that you've taken in and start doing something new with it that only you can do.
hmm
And everybody has that in them.
Right.
Absolutely everybody has little nuances that nobody else has. I have this really creepy ghosty thing I can do with my voice that I used to be embarrassed about because it sounded like my vocal was falling apart.
Mhm.
Then I learned that I could actually do it on purpose, and I started using it all the time.
Right.
The same with yodeling. I learned to yodel from my granddad. People made fun of it. I was like, whatever. I'm
Mhm.
just going to do a lot of yodeling now, and just pulling in all this stuff. People had told me not to belt because when I belt, my voice is abrasive. And I was like, am I supposed to be pretty all the time? Not really. Some things are painful.
That's right.
And the pain needs to be felt in the notes.
Yeah, you have to have an ugly cry.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that is my rant.
But the vocals is what allows so much diversification within your sound.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can go. That's what makes you defying
Yes,
genres,
yes,
right?
yes.
You're able to go
Yes.
and yodel. You're
Yes.
able to do a Janis Joplin
Yes.
kind of edginess to
Yes.
the voice. Like
Yes.
that's there for you. And
Thank you for noticing that.
Yeah, it's all over. People would say it's all over the place, but it's so clearly organized. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I try to tell the story of the words with my voice.
Yes,
The way an actor
delivery.
would live a scene.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm trying to do with my voice.
And it's so lost.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, what you're talking about right there, so lost on people nowadays. Like,
Yeah.
I think so many artists just think they have to show up.
Right. Or
You
even that they have to turn in a perfect performance.
Yeah.
Because that word perfect has come to mean sterile.
Yep.
And to me, a perfect performance is a performance that every single person can feel in
Yeah.
their gut every time they
So
hear it.
cool. Yeah.
That's why I love Jeff Buckley.
Yeah.
Is a great example of that. You can feel it. Lucinda Williams is the same way. You can just feel her songs, the anguish in them.
Mhm. At the end of the day, that
Yeah.
should be what songwriting's about
Yeah,
anyway, is
I think
feel.
so.
I feel like the biggest word is feel. Like you should have that. And if you're lacking that, what are you creating?
Oh, well, and who's it for? I
Exactly.
mean, my job is to help people feel seen, whether that's in their great days or in their low days. The gift of music is that you don't even have to be at a concert. You can hit play and you and I are living in a moment together.
It's great stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good stuff. There's so much confidence in you there. Do you have a voice, an inner voice that's trying to talk you out of things at times?
Well, I used to have a voice that told me not to do stuff all the time.
Hmm.
And then I kind of realized that that wasn't me.
Yeah.
And so I just locked that voice up and then set the building on fire.
Is that
and-
simple for you? Just
No.
walk away from it?
No, it took many, 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 many decades of work and, the birth of 4 children and
Yeah.
the loss of 2
Right.
and a lot of life,
Mhm.
but there kind of comes a time where you can either choose to keep living at 50% or keep living disassociated, or you can dive in and say like,
Mhm.
I'm going to feel all the beauty of this moment and I'm going to be present and I'm going to show up. And even if it hurts, it's a gift because I'm here,
Love it. It's a refusal to hide.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly
And
right.
I don't want my girls to grow up to hide.
No, absolutely
I don't want
not.
my son to change who he is.
Yeah, and you're present and knowing
Yeah.
that they're watching that.
Yeah, and if I screw up, I can say I screwed up.
Mhm.
I mean,
And that's a teaching moment too.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah, that's very good stuff. So, when I see a hiatus in a person's life and then
Mhm.
the person's music,
Mhm.
I always associate that with family.
Mhm.
Almost always.
Mhm.
I don't know anything about your hiatus, but as somebody who knows life, I'm assuming it
Mhm.
has something to do with family.
Absolutely, it does. So like I said, I've been a lifelong musician
Right.
my entire life. I mean,
And that doesn't pause.
and that doesn't pause.
Right.
I kept doing session work when I quit. So I had an indie rock band. I have been many, many people.
Mhm.
Uh,
Is that the Pemberley?
Pemberley was
Yeah.
my indie rock band, and
Killed it with that band.
we enjoyed
Yeah.
ourselves big
Yeah.
time. And that's sort of the end of that coincided with, it wasn't just me.
Mhm.
But a couple of band members were, moving away or getting married. I had actually miscarried my first baby.
Mhm.
And on top of that, all those like very real life things, music was changing in a big way. This was right around streaming had just become a thing and labels were freaking out, and Napster had kind of caused upheaval when I was in college. So this is like right after that. This is in the MySpace era,
Yeah.
basically.
That's funny.
And, and so all of that was to say it was time for that band to be done.
Mhm.
And I was okay with that. And I was just walking through, a lot of personal hardship at the time, the loss of a pregnancy that, for the longest time I thought I couldn't get pregnant. And then I was, and then I wasn't.
Mhm.
And then a couple of friendships that were very, very like close knit fell apart at the same time. And so it was kind of like, okay, I need to do this for now. And so I quit touring. I ended up getting pregnant the following year with my oldest, who is now 14.
Okay.
And I started playing music at church, as one does when you're not on the road.
Mhm.
I started throwing in at church, contributing there. Eventually took on a leadership role there, which was its own kind of nuanced and strange struggle at certain points. But yeah, it was a good 9 years of not touring, not playing my music.
Are you writing?
I didn't write any songs. All I did was play for other people. I played at church.
Was it because it was too raw?
I think it's because maybe I had believed a lot of things that weren't really true about what was okay for a woman.
Mhm.
And I had kind of decided in my heart that it was time, I'd had my shot and I should have my kids and they need to be my sole focus. That was what I thought at the time.
Mhm.
And, that really wasn't good for me.
Well, at some point, you talked yourself out of that, right?
I just couldn't not play anymore.
Yeah.
I couldn't not write anymore.
That's the
I
pause
was
we were talking
playing.
about earlier.
Yeah.
That's impossible to a creative person.
Yeah, I had just shut myself off for so much, and I had taken on so much criticism over the years that the people that said those things, I'm sure they just said those things and just went on with their life, but I had held on to it.
Yeah.
And
As we do.
And so I believed that there was something really wrong with me,
Mhm.
and that there was something wrong with me wanting to play music. And, one day so at this point, this is several years, because my youngest was a baby. And I sat down at the piano in the church basement and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't just keep not making.
Creating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to write a solo record. And I didn't know how I'm going to do it. This is very on brand for me. I'll be like, okay, I'm going to write an album.
This is great.
And so I went home after work because I was working at the church, and I talked to my husband about it, and he was like, well, we'll figure it out. I was homeschooling at the time, working and homeschooling. Oh my gosh. I'm definitely a more is more kind of person.
So was it a floodgates moment though? Like once you decide to create again,
It was interesting.
like you got 9 years of bottled up emotions to tell and
there was
stories
there was a lot of teardrops on the piano.
Yeah, I imagine.
So it was interesting. So I started writing and I was trying to find a producer, and I kept kind of running into roadblocks with finding a producer. But I decided I wanted to work on my voice. I mentioned this earlier to you. I wanted to really, if I was going to make a record, I wanted to do something really special. And so I asked a friend of mine who is still real active in the music industry. I said, hey, do you know somebody who could really help me work on my vocal? Because I can't seem to find a producer for these songs, but I want to be making progress and feeling good about it. And he recommended a guy out of LA for vocal coaching. And so I was like, why not? I'll do it. And signed up and had a couple of lessons via Skype, which was its own funny thing because I
just went out of business.
Yeah, this is before the pandemic, so nobody did that
Right.
kind of stuff back then.
So you were a pioneer.
Yeah. So we would meet, I'd have my little laptop in front of me on my music stand, and I would be singing and stuff.
Getting like 3 frames per second.
Yeah, it was really funny. But I started working on my voice, and like the third lesson in, I had this major breakthrough. And I remember the first thing he picked up from me was, he goes, so you're kind of a vibey singer, right? And I was like, I think so. Yeah. And then he hit me with, he was like, okay, here's what we're going to work on. I want to measure your, the power, how much power did I have? And so we did some breathing exercises, and then he hit me with Brandi Carlile and was like, okay, here, I want you to pick 5 songs for us to choose from of Brandi Carlile. And I was like, I don't think I can sing Brandi Carlile, but okay, I'll give it a shot. And the songs were like The Story.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, now you're talking to a person who, I was so traumatized by the heavy critique of any time I had sang out over my vocal break that I had actually taught my body not to do it. I would immediately switch into my head voice. Singers watching will know exactly what I mean. I would immediately go in falsetto. I would never, ever, ever sing out. I would never sing anything like the 2 songs I sang for you on this show today.
Right, yeah.
But that's immediately what he went for. And so gave me this list of songs, and The Story was on it. Turpentine was on it. Wherever Is Your Heart, it's kind of a deep cut, was on it. We met the next week, and he goes, okay, which song do you want to do? And I said, well, I definitely don't think I can do Wherever Is Your Heart. And he was like, great, let's do that one. And that was the beginning
That's great.
of a breakthrough. And after that lesson, I got in the car. I was out of breath because if you've ever heard that song, it's all right there, like the whole time.
Upper register.
Yeah. And I got in the car and I took a long, deep breath and started crying. I was like, I'm going to lose my job over this. Because I couldn't play it safe anymore and grow. Yeah. And that's when the writing started. And the next lesson, Bradley asked me, he said, so what are you doing? Like, you're a professional musician. Why are you in voice lessons with me? He's like, we've, made progress with the things you wanted to work on, but what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm writing an album. And he said, cool. Who are you writing with? And I said, me. And he said, well, I mean, are you co-writing with anybody? And I was like, nope. He was like, do you want to? I was like, I don't know. He was like, well, I'd love to write some songs with you. And I was like, really? And he said, yeah. Do you have a producer? And I said, no. He said, oh my gosh, can I help you?
So everything just fell into place.
And it all just fell into place. And 3 months later, I was in Los Angeles recording my first solo record with Courtney Ballard. So it was just, and since that moment, it has just grown and grown and grown and kept growing.
So you said more is more.
Oh, yeah.
So how are you balancing all of this?
Oh, I don't balance things, I don't think. I'm just fully present wherever I am, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I don't do well with free time.
Mm-hmm.
I get very bored.
Yeah.
So it's good that I have 4 children.
So how do road
and
trips
music.
work for you?
Well, depends. Are we with the kids or not with the kids?
Sure.
It's all of it.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's
Because
all
I
of it.
imagine if you're with the kids, you have things to do. You're not alone. But
Oh,
if
yeah,
you're just
yeah, yeah.
driving alone,
Yeah.
like going from one gig to another.
Oh, I'm constantly planning like what needs to happen today. What am I doing next? Do I have a gap? If I have a gap, like, do I need to rest, or do I feel like it's a good idea to write a song? Like, I wrote a song on Friday after my.
So you have heavy issues sleeping.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
I actually lift weights so that I can sleep at night.
I get it. Yeah, I get it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
If you knew some of the stuff I have to listen to get myself to sleep.
Oh.
I mean, we're talking about like the most monotonous crap.
Do you
could
listen to
think of.
the Matthew McConaughey reads a story or something?
Similar. Very similar. Here lately, it's been like baseball card pack openings.
Really?
Just the ASMR sound of the packs opening over and over again. And then the problem is like if they open something that's super rare, they get excited and then I wake up.
And then you're awake.
Yeah, but like I'm like okay, I need to find me a video where they don't pull anything rare.
Right.
But it works really great until oh my god, I got Ken Griffey.
Right.
I'm up. But yeah, it's that or it's funny because a lot of people listen to music to sleep and music.
I can't do that.
No, yeah, me either.
I pay close attention to everything.
Yes.
I'm wide awake.
I'm hearing every lyric. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I want to interview that
Yeah.
person. I'm so curious about why they did that there. And I'm just like, no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
The only one that allows me to sleep a little bit is Taylor Swift. Just because I already know why she's doing the things she does. You know what I mean? So like, it's just more calming, I think.
Right.
Like her new record is like a go-to if I'm really struggling.
It's beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, Fortnite. Oh my God, that song puts
So
me
good.
out. And it's not because it's bad.
No,
it's because it's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the fact that this is so vocally important. Like, it's just your vocals just really encapsulate who you are as an artist.
Thank you.
I think a lot of people miss out on that, especially like somebody you're a violinist. You've been playing violin your whole life. But yeah, vocals are so important.
Yeah.
And that's amazing.
Yeah.
Because you should have rested on your laurels. I'm an amazing violinist. I don't need vocals, but you knew different. And it's clear to me it's because those people were telling you weren't good.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And it was that, well, fuck you. I'm going to show you
Yeah,
you're wrong.
yeah.
It's that mentality, that
Yeah.
warrior mentality.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So thank you to them.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I wouldn't be who I am.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that so much. Americana, you know, we're talking about bluegrass.
Yeah.
There's obviously, you know, that rocking kind of vibe to who you are.
Yeah.
But God, you are making such waves in the world of Americana music.
I don't know how it happened.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's just my voice is even twangier than I thought it was. It really is. It's funny because in LA, I'm out there, you know, Courtney Ballard's produced like all these big, like, I'm going to totally destroy the genre names, but like, you know, some post-punk and some big pop artists and like Jessie J and things like that. And we're in the studio and he and Bradley are like, man, she sounds so country. And I'm like, I don't hear it.
Yeah.
I wasn't offended. I just for real did. I was like, this sounds like pop to me, guys.
Yeah.
You know, and then the record came out. The very first one came out and all the Americana outlets were all over it. And I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And it was just like, that was where I was supposed to land.
Yeah.
You know, my voice did it for me.
It's
I
the
didn't even do it
opposite
on
of a
purpose.
bad thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's like, I'm just like, I love this because I know who you are.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
through Jack. And Jack is very Americana.
Yes.
You know, young artist, but by God, like, that's where he needs to be.
Yes, 100%.
Right. So it's like, man, I love this for her.
Yeah.
And like just all the names that are around your name. I'm so happy for you. And
Thank you. It
it's
means
got to
a
be
lot.
exciting. as an artist and all that. But let's talk about the All-Star record a little bit. That's what I'm going to call it forever.
Yeah.
Forever and ever. You and Heather both have All-Star records, and I love
Yes.
that. Orange Blossom Child, and you have music videos for the singles
Uh-huh.
from it, which I love.
Mhm.
It shows off your spunk and your personality and stuff. That has to be meant, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So let me tell you guys who's on this record other than Van Plating.
I'm gonna drink
And
water
she's going
while
to
you
blush a
talk.
little bit. I know this already. So we've got Reckless Kelly. Let's just
Mhm.
start there. Okay, y'all. Reckless Kelly. Which the first, I did a song of the day
Mm-hmm.
on my platform that
Mhm.
had you and Rich on there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's, I think, the first time when you and I became friends on Facebook.
Oh,
It
that's
was
so
through that
great.
song of the day.
That's
That
awesome.
was like June or July.
Okay.
But yeah, that was the first solo song I heard
Mhm.
heard you sing and play. Elizabeth Cook.
She's Florida gal. She's
Yeah,
from
I
right
know.
up the road.
I hope to talk to her someday. I'm a big fan.
Mm.
Damn Quails.
Yeah.
Like, holy crap.
That was a wild side quest.
Okay.
We made it happen.
Wow,
We made it
side
happen.
quest. I love it. Kirby Brown, Boys
Yes.
Club for Girls.
Oh, they're so good.
Crystal Bowersox, who is also on Heather's record.
Yes.
And Shelby Lee Lowe, the Ottoman
Yes.
Turks.
Yes.
Golly.
I was hanging out with them last night in
Yeah.
Dallas. They went to karaoke after the show.
What was the golly, how do you pick this?
Oh man.
What's the creative process like in the studio when you're trying to decide,
yeah.
who's going to be on the song with me?
That is a great question. One of the ways I do it, now I have a very close friendship with my publisher,
Mhm.
who literally talk to him like every single day. And he signed me for this record. He was just so supportive. And part of the reason I was able to swing for the fences is because he kept telling me to, like, don't worry about how famous somebody is. Let's just ask him and see what
ask him.
happens,
Yep.
you know?
That's podcasting in a nutshell. by the way,
Yeah. And so he was just super helpful with, as I was building out the songs, I would say, okay, here's where the arrangement's going. Listen to this. Do you think this person, or this person would be a good fit? And then sometimes he'd be like, but have you thought about this person?
Mhm.
And so a lot of emails going back and forth. Some of the folks I knew already, like Ottoman Turks, I met them through Americana Fest a few years ago. They had, we had become friends on the pre-Elon Twitter. This is before everything fell apart. And they invited me to play
It was
the
before
Texas...
it was X, it was like a U or a W.
Right. So Texas does this rooftop party during
Mhm.
AMA every year.
Yeah.
And it's all Texas artists that play. I think it's the Texas Music Office puts it on, and
Mhm.
State Fair Records is part of it,
Right.
and all of that. I sound like a commercial for Texas. I love Texas. Anyway, so they said, hey, Van, you want to come sit in on fiddle for our set on the roof? And I was like, heck yeah, sign me up. I'd never met him in person. I met him in person on the stage at Americana Fest, and we've just been friends ever since.
I love it.
And they were perfect for the
It's
song
such a
that
good
they're
record.
on.
It's so good.
Thank you.
Where do you go from here? That's a lot to live up to.
Yeah, but more is more for me.
Yeah, there you go. That's true.
One thing I feel like I freed myself of is people's expectations in some ways, because, a little bit of the flack I got from, like, before I released the record, there were a couple people that said, hey, are you worried at all about how stacked this album is, that it might look like you're hiding behind features? And I was like, no, because if anybody listens to it.
Please do. Try to listen to the record and then say that.
Yeah, just listen to it.
Exactly.
And then talk to me.
Yeah.
So because it did, and then literally nobody even had any sort of critique of that. It was all like, how fun is this that all these people are part of it, and yet it's its own world. It doesn't sound like, like the song that the Braun brothers are singing on doesn't sound like it's their song. It sounds like it's my song and they're part of it.
Right.
And I wanted to highlight them. I wanted to highlight all of the guests because they're so important.
The
to
word
the
is
vision.
feature for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're part of this beautiful
Exactly.
world.
Right.
And so I plan to just do it again in a different way. I have a couple new songs written already for it, for the
Nice.
follow-up. But that's what I'm planning to hit soon.
Okay. Nice. I got a couple more before the break.
Okay.
The little 5-second break. But,
Okay.
Again, had a little probably the best songwriter I know.
Oh, she's incredible.
And
Yeah.
so she invited you to guest on Gunpowder and Lead, which
Yes.
some would say is her biggest song and probably her most successful song, but not her best song, I assure you. But
Yes.
that had to be a moment.
I think we have yet to hear her best song.
That's a very real possibility.
I think, and I mean, I'm saying that as a huge fan.
Yeah.
I don't think we've heard her top herself yet. And the new album that she did is brilliant.
Yeah.
So when I first got asked to do that song, I thought to myself, I hadn't put together her name and the song title
Right.
when it came to me as a session request. And so I was like, that title sounds familiar. Don't I know a song? Oh yeah, I know that Miranda Lambert song. Then I get the session and I went, wait a minute. This is your girl that wrote Gunpowder and Lead. And then I had a freak out moment in my little studio in Florida. Lost my mind over it a little bit.
I imagine.
And then I asked Brian, who was producing it, said, well, what are there parameters? What do you want me to do? And he was like, just go nuts and be creepy and do what you want to do. And so I did it, and then they used all of it.
Yeah.
And that recording is so special to me.
It's so out there everywhere. Y'all check it out.
It's so cool. And then, played fiddle on a couple songs for her, and just being
Did you play fiddle on that song?
Mm-hmm.
I thought so.
Yeah, that's why it sounds so deranged.
Yeah. I would not have called it that.
It definitely
There we go. Deranged.
Psycho
Oh
fiddle
my
playing.
God. The choice of adjectives are great with this one. Here's a question for you. This is going to be super deep, perhaps. Over the course of time in your life and your music, like kind of both in separate entities, what things are you happy or proud about? And the flip side, what are some things you regret or wish could be different?
I am incredibly proud of what I have built in the last, what year is it? 25. The last 6 years. If you had asked 2019 Van what my life would look like 6 years later, I don't think I would have been able to say I'd have 3 LPs out, a fourth one on the way. I'd be sitting in a beautiful attic room in East Texas about to play a sold out show in a gorgeous little listening room, surrounded by new friends.
Speakeasy Coffee House, Quitman, Texas.
Yes, there you go. Where's my t-shirt? So all of that is just, and I'm proud of the work that I have done to get myself here. I think especially as a woman and a mother who is also an artist, it can sometimes feel gauche or grabby to say those things out loud, but a guy would never bother to feel weird about saying, no, I did this. I built this. I've produced my own work with, all these wonderful players, and a lot of them have become beautiful friends, and it's humbling, and I'm grateful. You can be humble and you can be proud.
Absolutely, of course.
And then as far as regrets, gosh, I just don't think I have any. Even that long break I took, I mean, my gosh, it made me who I am. I think if I hadn't taken that break, I wouldn't be the singer and the writer that I am, because I think that
a lot of maturation.
Yeah.
period.
Nothing's wasted.
Yeah.
And you can't be late to your own life.
Oh, man. That's great stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. All right. So every single person on the planet, I feel this way anyway, in their chosen passion, they have one person that steered the ship the most for them, other than themselves. There was that mentor or that hero or something. Who was that for you?
I think I've had several. Steering the ship. Man, this is a tough one to answer, because I feel like a lot of, the skills that I have built were steered by my parents, and then the teachers that I was really blessed to have, who were tough on me, but they loved me.
I'd say that guy in LA probably deserves some credit, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bradley definitely deserves the credit for, instead of just sitting back and not saying anything, saying, hey, can I help you?
Right.
my violin teacher, Art Prano, who lives down the street from me now, man, he was like a second dad to me in college, and he pushed me really hard and um, never told me that I couldn't try something. And so I was exposed to virtuoso literature that most kids at liberal arts colleges wouldn't have gotten the chance to play.
Yeah.
Um, I would say my husband, who I've been with since we were 17 years old,
Wow.
we've grown up together. We were kids when we met. And he has just always been so good at telling me to listen to what I already know I should be doing instead of obsessing over other people's expectations and being the good girl and doing what I think I'm supposed to do rather than doing what I'm actually made to do.
Somebody has to water
Yeah.
the seeds.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And he's the father of my kids and he's my best friend. And then, most recently, like my publisher, he's such a good friend. And
She went from one person to like 12.
I can't do one.
I know.
I can't do
It's an
one.
impossible question to answer.
And
That's why it's asked.
I mean, before all of them, probably my granddad, musically, because he just played because he loved it. And he had.
I love that you're aware of who deserves their flowers.
Well, and I'm sure I'm missing some people.
I'm sure you are. Yeah, we always do.
But he always said, keep practicing. You might make money at it one day.
Hmm. Only on the days you have to eat, though.
Yes, exactly. That was Mr. Lassiter.
Yeah.
He's a very serious violin teacher. Yeah.
Guys, we are here with Van Plating. It's episode 57. We're going to take a brief break, and we're going to be right back with another song.
I'm putting it together right now, and I'd love to get it out that any student, I don't care how old you are or what, if your heart lies within this kind of domain of the sound, playing, any of that, I'm gonna start taking one day out of every couple of weeks and invite students in for a very small charge. And I will tell you whatever you want. Any question you got, I'll try to answer it.
Well, I will certainly put that out there. I'll make this a little ad for you, and we can share it
Because
everywhere.
they'll have full access to the studio, everything. I can tell them everything about how all of this started from analog into the digital world, and you'll be able to have hands-on. And I'll show you why analog sounds better than digital.
Amazing. Yeah, I'll definitely cut this out. I'll make a little ad out of it, and we can share it everywhere.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Because I'd love to do it. That's my legacy, is to leave with.
It's the pass it down, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all right, we are back. Once again, I want to thank our partners and sponsors. We have the Speakeasy Coffee House here in beautiful Quitman, Texas. And of course, Pappy Middleton with Palmyra Studios out there in Palmer. Pappy is Bonnie Raitt's producer.
Oh, really?
Of 27 years.
How cool.
That's a sponsor. Crazy, right?
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I'm super proud of that. But we're gonna Van's gonna play another song for us, and this one is on the record we were just talking about. This is called "The Hard Way." Tell us about it.
Well, The Hard Way is a song that I couldn't have written until I had worked through what had happened to me.
Mhm.
The central verse on the song is about a near-death experience. I had a ruptured ectopic pregnancy. I didn't know I was pregnant. I had my 3 little girls, and I was nursing my third one, my baby, outside, and I started feeling this sharp pain and rushed inside, and I didn't know what was happening because I hadn't had any of the normal pregnancy symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
So I handed Jack the baby, went inside, and some time went by, and I started thinking I was miscarrying, called the hospital. They said, well, you can miscarry at home or you can come here. I had no idea that I was bleeding internally. I had no idea that I was essentially bleeding out. I went to the doctor, and usually when your fallopian tube ruptures, you bleed out and you die.
Right.
That's just what happens.
Yep.
Went to the doctor, tested as still pregnant. They gave me another, and days kind of went by because I was still coherent, and they couldn't find a baby on an ultrasound, and there was just a lot of confusion, all because I was still awake and I was in a lot of pain. And the third day happens, and I go in for the blood test because that's how they decide whether or not you've passed the fetal tissue or
Right,
not.
right, right.
My pregnancy hormones had like multiplied like crazy. I was swollen. They were like, you have to go to the hospital right now. We think that your fallopian tube ruptured, and you've just presented so differently that nobody had any
Feel
idea.
lucky to be here.
Incredibly, they told me to say goodbye to my kids
Wow.
because we don't know what's going to happen. Emergency surgery, which saved my life. I woke up from that, and you're stunned when something like that happens. I wasn't even afraid. I was just there. My husband was with me in the hospital room, and they come in and they talk to you and they say, you probably won't have more kids. And we'll talk to you about, what that looks like later. You have basically half of your equipment is still here. The other half, we literally barely saved your life. I had lost 3 liters of blood in my body.
Wow.
So that happened. That's sort of the central crux of this song. This happened while I was also just in those early stages of feeling like I wasn't really living as myself. I had this beautiful family whom I love, and I love my children, but I hadn't been creating music or doing a lot of the things that made me who I am. And that was in some way, I was like, what am I doing? And I remember looking at my husband before I went under for surgery. And I said, hey, I don't want it to end like this. I don't want our story to end like this. And I don't know what this means, any of it means, but I don't want this to be the end of anything, So I get home and I heal. Took a long time. That was a lot of blood. I required several transfusions, obviously, but I lived through it. They really didn't think I would. I mean, I still, every Easter is when that anniversary rolls around, and it's kind of amazing to think of what a resurrection can mean in a normal human life. And that was a resurrection for me. Absolutely.
So as a songwriter, a creative being, it's so difficult to put out the most personal of your stories.
Right.
But you decided to.
I decided that I needed to write the song, and I didn't know if it was going to go on anything. I just wrote the song. And, I wrote it on our back porch. This was, I can't remember off the top of my head what year it would have been that happened. But this is, 7 years later, maybe. I finally was able to put the words down in a way that was coherent, but still very, very raw. And I couldn't even get through it the first time I tried to sing it on the back porch.
But yet of all the songs you do, all the songs you've written,
that's
the only song you did on this show that's not a new single.
I don't know why I did that. It just is I guess it's what we were supposed to talk about today.
That is so courageous.
Oh, thank you. Some things I do just by reflex, I think.
I understand. But it's so hard. I talk to a lot of songwriters, and, there's always those songs you keep for yourself that are just too powerful, too personal, too raw.
I used to do that.
To share with other people. Yeah. I think all songwriters have those songs.
I used to do that.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to do that anymore, like forever anymore. Because if it's close enough that it breaks me, then somebody out there really needs
I was going to
it.
say, it's probably in hopes of healing somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's just something really cathartic about being honest. We spend so much of our lives curating what people see, even, not just on social media, but just in our life. We try to control our image to a certain extent. And there's something really refreshing to me about being that real. Yeah. And it kind of can make you a little bit more fearless, because if I've already put it all out there, what's somebody else going to say?
That says a lot about who you are too. And maybe you don't even realize this, but you were helped by so many people being mean to you. Right?
Yeah, it's true.
And then you are helping people by being sweet and vulnerable and raw, when really you have every justification to just shelter yourself and not help people.
Yeah.
Like those people could have very easily just had you harboring,
Mm-hmm.
these kinds of things and keeping them for yourself.
That's true.
That says a lot.
I think
know?
I tried that for a few years, and
Yeah, I imagine it didn't help.
I just didn't feel alive.
Yeah.
And the story didn't end there because I don't have 3 children, do I?
Right.
I have 4.
That's right.
And 6 months after that happened, I started feeling real weird on Thanksgiving vacation. And I took a pregnancy test.
Wow.
And then I took 3 more pregnancy tests because the doctors had said there's no way.
Wow.
And I was pregnant with our son.
Wow. Amazing.
So, yeah.
So let's play the song. It's called The Hard Way, y'all. Check it out.
Saw a sign the other day, says say your praise and you'll be saved. I wonder who they're praying to. Forgiving the peace on earth, fill the pieces with dirt. I wonder if these problems are worth. They call it straight and narrow, my road's twisted up. My guitar is getting heavy as I go. I'll carry love in my right hand, left one holding yours, my friend. The hard way, it's the only way I know. Couldn't follow what they said, my armor didn't hold. Cracks along the bone, my skin was broken. Lost a baby in my bed, sheets were bathed in blood stained red. My heart it kept on beating whole, but they said it would. They call it straight and narrow, my road's twisted up. My guitar is getting heavy as I go. I'll carry love in my right hand, my left one holding yours, my friend. The hard way, only way I know. I've recaptured fearlessness, I'll put away my pride. I've walked through every unlocked door in hopes I stay alive. The goal is straight and narrow, but my road's twisted up. My guitar is getting heavy as I go. I'll carry love in my right hand, the left one over yours, my friend. The highway is the only way I know. The long road, that's the way I'll go. The hard way, that's the way I know. Yeah, yeah. Hey, yeah. Hey, oh,
All right, so we are back, and a lot of folks who watch the show get so excited about the part after the second song
All right.
because we have a lot of fun, and
Okay.
this is going to be a blast. Again, shut your filter off.
Okay.
You can cuss on this show
Hell yeah.
if you need to.
Okay.
All right. So whatever comes in has to come out. That's all I'm asking.
Okay.
All right. The first one is called Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
And so the Mount Rushmore is 4 people up on Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
All right. So who is on Van Plating's Mount Rushmore of songwriters?
Oh my gosh. Starting with the hard hitting questions. My Mount Rushmore of songwriters.
Has to be 4. No honorable mentions.
Okay. Lucinda Williams.
Hmm.
Hold on, I'm thinking. That was easy because I was just listening to her. Mount Rushmore is that's a big statement.
Yeah.
God.
And we are filming this.
I know. I'm looking at the ceiling like it's going to help me.
It's not going to help you. The answers aren't up there.
Jeff Buckley.
Oh, man.
Who else? Lucinda and Jeff. You know, I'm gonna say June Carter.
Okay.
She doesn't get as much credit as she should.
I agree.
And I'm gonna say fucking Dolly Parton.
Okay.
Is that 4?
Yeah, that's 4. Well, I mean, Dolly could count as 2, if you know what I mean.
That's true.
We'll go with 1. Sorry, Dolly. All right, next one's called What the Heck?
Okay.
All right, so these are rapid fire questions.
Okay.
And some of them might be crazy and quirky. Some of them might be serious.
Okay.
But you just have to answer whatever comes in.
Okay.
All right. So what do you think happens if you get scared half to death twice?
Well, I guess you're dead.
No.
No?
This is simple math.
Oh.
So unless it happens very quickly.
So you're saying there's space between being scared half to death?
Well, how many times have you been scared half to death twice quickly?
Never.
No, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So as long as there's some determinate amount of time in between, then you get scared half to death. You have 50% life left.
Okay, so you're good. So it's like your body battery's at half.
Right.
Then
But now the next time it happens, now you're at 25% left.
Oh, no.
So you can never get to 0.
Okay.
Just as long as you don't get scared half to death twice quickly.
Okay, then you're good.
So if it happens to you, shut down your senses.
Got it.
For at least 10 minutes, I would think.
Good advice.
Okay. Remember that, y'all. All right, so have you ever lost your glasses while they were still on your face?
No.
Do you wear glasses?
Not yet.
So you're cheating.
Yes. I don't wear contacts, though.
That's not cool.
Just saying.
All right, well, you have a cell phone, right?
I do.
Okay, so have you ever done one of these 2 things? Have you ever searched for your lost phone with the flashlight on your phone?
Not yet, but I'm sure that's coming.
Okay, and have you ever called your lost cell phone from your phone?
No, I haven't. I sound like a jerk.
I've done both of those things.
I sound like such a jerk.
You have life hacks. Pineapple on pizza?
Heck yes.
Wow. See, that must be a Florida thing. I'm thinking. All right, so here's a serious question. If 4 out of 5 people suffer from diarrhea, does that mean the 5th person enjoys it?
I mean, it's possible. Maybe they're on a cleanse.
Perhaps. But if they're on a cleanse, do they enjoy it?
I guess if they're feeling better, aside the diarrhea.
Last one, we'll make well, you know what? This is a good one. I can't believe I'm going to ask. No, I'm not going to ask you this because you married your high school sweetheart. So that wouldn't make any sense.
Okay.
It was a dating question. That's a long time ago.
I mean, I still date him, but...
Well, that's true. Well, yeah, but the question is about the first time you date somebody.
Oh.
So, yeah.
It's been a long time.
All right, so here's one. You're alive in the 1920s.
Okay.
Just a regular person that was born in that time in space.
Okay.
Now, a time traveler comes back and visits you, and his cell phone goes off with a Nickelback ringtone. How do you react?
I think I would.
Y'all saw the face, right?
That was completely involuntary. Well, there you have it.
That's why we play What the Heck, y'all. So, I don't know if you know Helene Cronin.
I don't think so.
She's an amazing songwriter from Texas. And you gave the same reaction. Not to that question, though. Yeah. I asked her why McDonald's doesn't sell hot dogs. And her face did the same thing your face just did. Oh, my gosh. I love this show. All right. Next segment is called One Artist.
Okay.
So you can decide one artist you want the whole world to know about. Who is it?
Liv Dot.
Okay.
That's her stage name. I think everyone should know about her because she has the grit of Fiona Apple, the honesty of Loretta Lynn, and the balls of Johnny Cash.
Nice. So I'll be looking her up. That's a very selfish question because I love to learn of new music.
You will.
That's how I learned of you by being a guest
cool.
on Jack Barks.
Yeah.
So that's how I learned of new artists. Very selfish because I love music and it's like Christmas morning when I learn of somebody new. So I'll be looking her up. Cool. Our next one's called Wishlist.
Okay.
So the way this works is it's just basically a goal, something you have that you would love to do, whether it's co-write with a certain co-writer or open for somebody famous or play at a venue that you've never played at, something like that.
I have a long wish list.
Okay.
I mean, I'd love to open for Lucinda for a run of dates. I would love to play the Ryman with my band in the not too distant future. I'd love to not be 100 years old when that happens.
Because then the Ryman would be like 300 years old at that point.
Right.
Probably wouldn't have plumbing anymore.
Yeah. My gosh, I'd love to co-write with Jason Isbell.
Oh my gosh.
I think that would be a dope
I agree.
duet.
Yeah.
And Brandy Carlisle, because I would love to meet her and be able to tell her that she helped me find my voice again. I think that would mean something to her. I know it would mean something to me.
She'll be tagged in this.
Perfect. Man, those are probably off the top of my head. I'm probably missing something that I've been thinking about.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
All right, next one. We have two more.
Okay.
Next one's called Personal Best. So fans of yours will think that there are certain things that you have accomplished that are amazing.
Okay.
But what do you think is your best personal accomplishment? And it doesn't have to be music related.
My kids. I mean, and they're not finished yet. But I think just the fact that, someone like me who's an artist, who was born to be an artist, it's not very often you come across somebody who gets to live this life and also like gets to have a family and a spouse. And, as hard as it is to balance all those things, that's the greatest thing in my life is that I get to do this and I get to have real relationships at home. So I'd say that's the greatest thing.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Just about every time it's something not music related.
Yeah.
From an artist,
Yeah.
which is so cool to see.
Yeah.
I love that so much. Buddy Cannon, for example, who, Willie Nelson, one of Willie Nelson's collaborators and producers. What an incredibly talented and accomplished human being. His biggest accomplishment, according to him, was becoming sober.
That is a hell of an accomplishment.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when he came out with that, like, this is Buddy Cannon. Like,
yeah.
Can you imagine, like, there's so many
all
things.
the recordings he could have thrown out there, but that wasn't it.
30 years with Kenny Chesney. Like, it's just, and that's why I love that question, because it's so reflective of who somebody is, which is what my next segment is.
Okay.
It's called, Who Do You Think You Are?
Okay.
So who is Van Plating?
She is a grown-ass woman who, man, she loves big and she has a lot of angst that she's always working through. And she requires a lot of exercise.
So she can sleep?
I think she's a good friend. I think she tries her best to be the best, most effective storyteller and songwriter that she can be. And I think that she's never going to stop growing, like, ever. Personally or artistically. I mean, they'll just put me in the ground eventually. But
nice.
I'm never gonna stop growing.
I love that. Good stuff. That's who Van Plating is, and she is our 57th guest here on the Boston Chris podcast. So 2025 just arrived. What's on the horizon for you?
So many things. Let me see. I have a new record coming out. Y'all will have already heard the first song off of that. It's an 8-song LP with a bonus track. So 9 songs total. That'll be kind of trickling out into the world from March through August.
So that waterfall effect?
Yes, that's the idea. I am working on my follow-up to Orange Blossom Child. I've just started writing those songs, so I'm going to start recording them as soon as I have a big enough pile. I'm going to test out a couple of those new songs here tonight. That's going to be
helped by y'all out there, so help with her pile.
Yes. I have co-written a whole bunch of songs in the last 4 months with a couple artists from Ireland.
Wow.
Which I'm really excited about. I can't talk about it yet.
Which means she has to come back on the show at some point.
But some pretty cool shit has been happening.
Nice.
So there's going to be more co-writes in the future. Basically, I'm just going to, I don't really sleep. I said that. So I'll just be
because you don't like working out.
Exactly. I'm just going to be making a ton of music. So just go try to keep up, follow me in all the places. And I hope that if, surely there is something for everybody out there, because I'm working in so many different directions, and I'm excited about every single one of them. They're all teaching me something.
And it's vanplating.com.
Vanplating.com is my website, and it's vanplating on every single
Everywhere.
socials, streaming, all of it.
We'll make sure that's all in the description down below, so you guys support the artist, and you can do that completely for free. I'll tell you how. There's a couple of ways. Number one, follow her everywhere except to her car. That's kind of creepy.
Don't do that
just
part.
so we're clear. Number two, share. Follow her on her social medias, and when you see something that she does, share it. Even if you don't think it's doing anything, because trust me, it is.
Yeah.
You might have one person that follows you, but the algorithm doesn't care about that. All the algorithm sees is a share, and the more shares she gets, the more people see it.
Yep.
It's pushed out there in the algorithm. Do it. So share. Believe me, you matter. And the other way is by streaming.
Yes.
It might take 4 million streams to pay the water bill, but
it's something that everybody can do.
That's right.
It's absolutely something everybody can do. You can bookmark posts. I've recently learned that helps. But yeah,
make playlists.
Spotify loves user created playlists.
Yes.
And I love them too, because some people don't know this, but we get to see everything you guys make.
Yep.
So
YouTube does the same thing too.
Yeah, and YouTube does that. So yes, just interact with it. If something resonates with you, interact with it like a crazy person would.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's vanplating.com. Check out all her stuff in the description down below. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it.
Good to meet you.
You too.
Hey, everybody, I'm Randy Foster. And if you're not listening to Boston Chris's podcasts, you're doing it wrong. I'm telling you, you're going to learn so much. You're going to laugh. You're going to cry. You're going to meet all these artists that you care about their music. I'm telling you, you're going to have a good time. Come on.